Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. I'm your old pal Emac coming to you on a Tuesday morning with Adam Ship My Money Share. Adam, talk to me here. We had an exciting Monday night of basketball. All of the stalwart stars, we got news that they were all going to be out except for Wiggins that was out after lock, and Fred Van Vliet got scratched after lock. What do we do? I thought things were getting better. I was doing victory laps during the day saying no Anthony Davis, no Giannis, and we knew early. No Alfred Payton, and then we still get dinged at the end here.
Yeah, it was pretty nice and pretty weird how early news came out. It made it a really interesting slate just because most people have like the same cash lineup or some very close variation of it. And if you could get yourself in the mindset to try and win a tournament instead of, min cash, it was like ownership was just so concentrated in tournaments that there was definitely an edge there. So it was just a really interesting, weird slate. It's definitely nice getting the news that early, though, and not having to redo everything with 30 minutes to go.
Yes, and well, when we're hopefully that's cleaned up a little bit more this season, but as we know, the further along we get in the season with the flu and the resting and all tanking and all that stuff, the scramble can be real, and it's hard if you're doing a ton of lineups to appropriately rebalance things. In any event, promo code EARLYBIRD will get you one free week of awesome premium content, including the Fantasy Cruncher add-on that is projections for all of the key sports. There's articles for all of the key sports. You get the shows in front of the paywall, but you also get the Slack chat. In addition to Fantasy Cruncher and the projections and the Osmo proprietary ownership projections, it's a good way to go. If you're into basketball, you get the report card from Fast Eddie Fear, who ranks cash game and tournament plays. And, of course, you get Osmo's Alex Baker. You get his rankings as well. So tons and tons of information. Promo code EARLYBIRD, 1 week free. All right, Adam, we have 8 games on a Tuesday, which it's been a while since we have seen this many. We have got a whole slew of teams on back-to-back. No surprise there. We, of course, are recording this on Monday night, so there could be some changes with injuries as a lot of the games are still going on here or entering into the second halves and fourth quarters. But we have Sacramento on a back-to-back, Atlanta, Miami, Philly, Toronto. I think that's everybody that's on a back-to-back. We have some high over-unders, which this is now becoming the norm. I mean, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 games are 225 or higher. And then we've got one game has no line, and then you've got Boston and Detroit is the lowest at 208. The second lowest is Miami at Charlotte. Let me say that again, Adam. Miami at Charlotte, 220 over-under.
Yeah, basketball is just weird this season.
Well, there's one constant. The Wizards suck eggs.
They're so bad.
I don't even want to watch them anymore. I don't like them. Not even Kelly Oubre, not even John Wall. I think I'm done. I need a new team, Adam.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a full Wizards game start to finish yet this year. But it's not – I don't really have much incentive to start.
No, it's rather painful. It's rather painful. But – in any event, we're going to go position by position here because we have a ton of players to talk about. We have the 16 teams here, so let me get my little filters reset here, and we can get going. The fun stuff out there is I'm seeing more and more single-game contests, particularly on DraftKings, not just for the last game of the night, but they're feathering them in for NFL. There's not just the primetime games. They've been running 2 or 3 other ones, and they're starting to do that in basketball as well. So I'm curious to see what happens when we're down to just basketball. Goodness, I hope we still get to see a regular full slate of games. They don't chop it up too much for us. All right, as we cruise in here, looking at the top of the pricing list, we will utilize DraftKings as our guidelines, since that's where you and I play the majority of our games. Of course, most of the analysis will hold true for this first look on all sites. We've got Russell Westbrook up at the top. He is checking in at 10,500. Chris Paul at 9,300, which seems a little expensive until we remember James Harden is going to miss the better part of the next 2 weeks as he's dealing with a grade 1+ hamstring issue. Last year it was a grade 2 hamstring strain that kept him out of a few games. So apparently it's not as bad, but it's still enough that they think he's going to miss the better part of the next 2 weeks because it is a long season. We've got the disappointing of late John Wall. We have the amazing Kemba Walker, and I don't even mind Kemba going against Miami, which I would have never said last year, with Whiteside waiting for him there at the rim, but the pace has picked up so much. I'm okay with Kemba. Plus, I won't steal your thunder. You tell us why Kemba is a good play, and hopefully a good play on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, we've just seen him be really, really, really good without Dwight Howard, even going back to last season. Not a great matchup here against Miami. You already mentioned, one of the slower paced games on the slate, even though the total is still at 220. But Kemba's just his price tag's not really moving. He's still only 8,300. He's got a usage rate up over 30%, I believe, pulling it up now. If not over, it's really close. But also a very high assist percentage. So far this season, Kemba has I have him at a 35.4% usage rate with a 31.3 expected assist percentage. Just doing absolutely everything for this offense and playing big minutes as well. So I think the price tag's just too low for him. But up at the top, it's pretty stacked as well. You have Chris Paul, who was very disappointing against the Clippers, but will come back and face Portland, again, without James Harden. Going back to last season, Paul with a usage rate over 30%, an assist percentage over 50% without Harden on the floor, averaged about 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. So if you project him for around 36 minutes, that's still a pretty nice deal at 9,300. Westbrook facing off against Pat Beverly and the Clippers backcourt. He hasn't really looked like himself. He had a good first game back, but has kind of struggled in the 2 games since, not being super efficient, even, from a fantasy point production standpoint. Struggled a little bit against Boston, struggled a little bit against the Suns, but the price tag's still low enough at 10,500 that I'm really interested there. I think Simmons is the one that kind of stands out as being behind everyone else. Obviously really, really good in his own right, but, basically the same price point as Chris Paul, but going against the Toronto team on a back-to-back. I think that's the first guy that I'm going to end up kind of crossing out of this group.
All right, moving down the pricing sheet just a little bit, we have Mike Conley, who was coming off a string of 40-point fantasy games on DraftKings, 3 of them in a row. Only got 31 against Phoenix, but that's because they did not need him to play. So he only got 28 minutes, about 6 or 7 less than his normal run. So I expect to see him doing well in this matchup with the Wizards. The other guy I'm interested in, and this is because of his price, he's been phenomenal, that would be De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox at 6,900 starts to become a bit of a question for me because we're really going to need him to surpass 40 fantasy points to get about where we need to. I don't think it's a completely egregious price point because we'll find enough value on a slate that's this big, and we know there's a few injuries lingering out there. But he has top 40 fantasy points in 3 of his games. How do you like this matchup going against the Magic?
Yeah, I mean, on in the second half of a back-to-back, but he has looked really good. Definitely has the minutes have been really secure for him. Going into Monday night's game, Fox for the season had a 24% usage rate, a 31.5% expected assist percentage. So, is being very productive and getting plenty of minutes this year. So the price tag, there's kind of some sticker shock when you first look at it, but I think that it's more than fair for the way he's been, able to produce this year.
All right, and Orlando is smack dab in the middle of the defensive efficiency ratings. They're at 109, and that's checking in at 15th. So reasonable matchup there for us. Anybody down here in the bargain bins before we get a lot of confirmed news? One guy I do have my eye on, and I need you to talk some rational sense into me. It's Jordan Clarkson. He's at 4,600 now. Last year, 2 years ago, that would have been great. The situation would have been great. He's going to get close to 25 fantasy points. We think Kevin Love could miss up to 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer with his foot issue, especially now that there's no more coach Tyronn Lue because he was fired after the 0-6 start. Of course, I will be the 18th person to the party to make the joke about how their coach actually left them this offseason, LeBron James. But they've now got Larry Drew. We have a Larry Drew starting here. What the hell's going to go on with Cleveland?
Yeah, so there was an article talking about the ownership wanting J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver out of the rotation for the younger players there, and that Lou did it for a game and then brought them back and then was promptly fired. So I don't know if that means that they will be leaving the rotation again, which would potentially be good for Clarkson. Obviously, it would open up more backcourt minutes or wing minutes, and by extension, backcourt minutes. So that's something to at least keep an eye on. I don't think you can very confidently project him for big minutes, but it's going to be a fast-paced game, and he certainly is going to have the usage. So if nothing else, he's worth keeping an eye on in tournaments. But Pat Beverly at actually a little bit cheaper price tag is the guy that I'm really interested in here. We're seeing him basically split the point guard minutes with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And for the most part, Gilgeous-Alexander has been playing more minutes this year, but a lot of that has been due to either foul trouble or blowouts or a combination of both. I'm still not convinced that the game plan isn't for Beverly to play 28 to 30 and Gilgeous-Alexander to get the rest. Now you're talking about a game against Russell Westbrook where Beverly will be very valuable defensively. I think that Beverly at 4,400 will go completely overlooked and has a path to a pretty good game here.
All right, throwing out a couple cheapies here on Yahoo. We do have Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton checking in at 11. That's the 10 is the minimum, so those are decent prices. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who you mentioned, is at 14, and Pat Beverly is at 17. Beverly's getting a little bit expensive, but if he does come into those 28 minutes, that will be a reasonable price point for him as well. As we move on here to the the shooting guard position, we'll have to see what's going on with Kawhi Leonard. We'll talk about him for just a second. Coaches and front office basically came out and said, yeah, we're not going to worry about him sitting on the back-to-back here. That would be Monday night and Tuesday night. And then we got word not too far into the morning on Monday that he would be resting on Monday night. Thoughts on that? I was hoping some of those issues would be left behind in Sacramento. Granted, he was hurt, but a little bit of the communication and I don't know, outside factors, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. I don't know what went on there. And Giannis was ruled out right after. So I don't know. It was almost like maybe they were just waiting to see if Giannis was going to play and they got word that he wasn't or something. I don't know. It was really weird.
All right. Well, in any event, if he's in, he's healthy. He's at $9,500. Wow. That's pretty pricey going against Philadelphia. That'll be a fun one to watch there with him going against Ben Simmons and company. Bradley Beal, just disappointing as always. Rodney Magruder, way too expensive considering everybody is healthy or starting to be healthy and coming back with Wayne Ellington and Winslow and a variety of other players for Miami. We're dropping down. Ooh, Mr. Kent Bazemore. Now, he had a dud, and by a dud, I mean 10.5 fantasy points. Not real points, fantasy points in his last outing. But prior to that, he does have some tournament winning upside at 54 fantasy points and 40 fantasy points. He's 5,700. I do like this matchup against a decimated Cleveland team. What are you liking here amongst our shooting guard options?
Yeah, and Bazemore on a back-to-back actually halfway through the fourth quarter on Monday night has 31 DraftKings points. So a pretty decent game for him, last night. Nick Batum, the usage isn't really there. The assists aren't really there, but the minutes are, and the price tag's down. So I still don't mind going to Nick Batum, just at least from a floor standpoint. It's just hard for him to be on the floor that much and not put together a reasonable game. Bradley Beal at only 6,800. It's a tough matchup against the Memphis team that's still good defensively, but 6,800 for a guy that should play around 36 minutes and should get up plenty of shots, even though the Wizards do suck. I think that, that's too cheap of a price tag. And then CJ McCollum still at 6,400. It's someone that I've been high on for, a couple of days now. I'll have to go back and look, and I'll mention it in the article and on the Deeper Dive show tomorrow. But in Portland's game, not Monday night, but their prior game, McCollum got about 8 minutes of backup point guard action with his minutes staggered with Damian Lillard. Not sure what they did last night. I'll have to go and look. But if he's getting point guard minutes, it obviously makes him even more potentially productive than he already would be. But even at this price tag, getting 33 to 35 minutes with around the 27% usage rate, I think that there's plenty of value there.
All right, now we've got a couple of guys squaring off here. We have Evan Fournier going against Buddy Hield. Hield is, of course, on a back-to-back, as we did mention Sacramento is playing already. He does have 17 points, 6 rebounds. What's going on here? I will say He is not the next Steph Curry, but he has definitely asserted himself well above Steph Curry. So we'll see what's happening. But, Adam, these are encouraging numbers from him. And then on the other side, Evan Fournier, we know what we're getting here. He's going to get the shots. If he makes them, yay. If he doesn't, well, it was an annoying night. But he's in the low to mid fives on DraftKings, and he does have 40 fantasy point upside as long as he's getting a couple assists and steals. And we've already seen him have a 10-assist game. So those guys, I think, are interesting for their price points. Any overall thoughts on Hield? Is this a whole new world here for the Sacramento Kings? They're still, to borrow a phrase from Major League, they're still shitty. But they're have some fantasy goodness for us.
Yeah, I mean, Hield's been a lot more productive, I think, than a lot of people give him credit for, even than I kind of realized. Like, you go back and look, since last season, he's averaged about a fantasy point per minute. And you're seeing more of the same this year. So I think he's fine. He's not someone that I really love. I do like Fournier a bit. You know, Sacramento's playing at a faster pace this year, a lot faster pace this year than normal. Fournier playing low to mid 30s in minutes, should have a usage rate in, around 23%. I think it's a really good spot for Fournier.
All right, checking in. Sacramento playing currently, and again, most of this is through about 6 games, but they're at the 10th fastest pace going into Monday. Orlando actually second to the lowest. So food for thought, but we'll keep that all in mind here. Any other intriguing options for you at the shooting guard position?
Want to keep an eye on, I'm not even sure if he's still shooting guard eligible. Gerald Green is, I can't find him. If Gerald Green is a cheap shooting guard, he's 3,900. He dealt with some foul trouble in his last game, ended up getting there in garbage time, but I still think that he's a reasonable value option at only 3,900. Should play 26 to 28 minutes.
All right, looking at our small forwards here, we've got Paul George. He will be going against Tobias Harris, about $900 separating those guys. You've got Tarion Prince, who steady. I was waiting for him to make the leap. I still think he will this season, but at 7,100, I'd like to see more than just one game so far this season with him over 40 fantasy points. But he is averaging nearly 21 real points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So that's a nice, well-rounded game. I just think on this particular slate we may not need to go there. One guy who has just been absolutely phenomenal is Nemanja Bjelica. Oh, good God, dropped 53 fantasy points on the Wizards, 43 on Memphis. A bit of a dud there in Denver in the Pepsi Center with just 16. Then the game before that, he had 32 against OKC. He's been in and out of the starting lineup in key rotational aspects. He is 30 years old. Is this the coming out party, the coming out season for him, or is he just another beneficiary of the Kings not playing at a snail's pace?
Yeah, I think that's been the big thing for the Kings. We've seen them just be so much more relevant, I guess, from a fantasy perspective this season. Bjelica has certainly been part of that as well. Just last I saw on Monday night, had like 23 in the first half as well. So he keeps being really good, and he's locked in the 30 to 32 minutes ahead of Marvin Bagley as long as he plays well.
All right, what do you think about Robert Covington and Saric? Let's assume, because they'll be on a back-to-back, so we'll see what happens with Embiid or Simmons. But they're going into Toronto. Let's assume that Wilson Chandler does not make his debut. Do either of those guys interest you, or do we have too many healthy people right now with the 76ers to go that deep into the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing that I see myself prioritizing because, like you said, they are close to fully healthy, but also it's just the least appealing fantasy game on the slate. You have 2 defensively minded teams with the Sixers and the Raptors. Toronto, not playing fast. I think that you can just do a lot better on the slate than, trying to get one of those guys to have a ceiling game. All
right. I can't believe we have him. We have him at fantasy relevance, 5,300. Yes, it's Carmelo Anthony. All right. He, over his last 2 games without James Harden, is averaging a fantasy point per minute, and he's playing a ton of minutes. 35 fantasy points in 34 minutes in the last game, and then 39 fantasy points in 39 minutes against Utah, the game prior to that. good God, I'm actually going to consider him. Would you pair him with any other banana boat compatriots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you kind of have to be pretty high on Anthony with the minutes that he's playing right now with Harden out. There's a little bit more usage there as well. I don't believe Mo Harkless will be back for Portland. I don't remember exactly how long he's out for, but that's a blow to them defensively. So yeah, I like Melo a lot at 5,300.
All right, let me just checking Mo Harkless here. Let's see, left the game on Saturday with a sore knee. It's the same knee that gave him trouble throughout the preseason. That is no other information for how long he may be out, but we already know he was being limited in his first few games that he ended up playing to just 20 minutes. So that information courtesy, of course, of Roto World. Are there any other players at the small forward position that give you a little intrigue? Perhaps an Otto Porter being called out by his teammates for being selfish?
Yeah, I'm good on Otto Porter. Chetty Osman, though, he's burned me a ton this year, but still 5,500 in a fast-paced game against Atlanta. I have some interest there. Already mentioned Batum. Taurean Prince, I think, is a really good play. He's got a ton of usage this season. Big part of the Atlanta offense. We know Cleveland's not going to play much defense at all. So I think he's a good play. And then Aaron Gordon, 6,800. That's just an absolutely phenomenal play. I think we haven't seen him in a good spot for a while, but there's no question that this guy has a monster ceiling. Plenty of usage. He can rebound. He can do everything. And now you get a huge pace-up game against the Sacramento team that plays fast and struggles defensively. Aaron Gordon, I think, is probably going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate.
All right, last guy I'm sort of this is a placeholder. It's Marcus Morris. You always need to consider the matchup because you need him to get over the 25-minute mark. Now, if it's a marginal game, he'll only play around 20 in that rotation because they won't need him. But this one could be interesting going against Detroit. We've seen Detroit be pretty darn feisty so far this season. Now, these two teams played each other in Detroit on Saturday, so this is a bit of a home and home with a couple days off in between. But he dropped 30 in 25 minutes. I do find him interesting from time to time. Any thoughts on him as we get on out of the small forward position?
No, I mean I think it's fine.
Oh, PJ Tucker. I got to mention him because you'll like to talk about him. We'll use him as our transition to power forward because everybody at small forward is multi-position eligible on DraftKings today. That may not be the case tomorrow, but it is today.
PJ, 4,700 for PJ Tucker. Like I know he's had a couple ceiling games recently. I just have trouble ever paying that price tag.
All right, on to the good power forwards. Blake Griffin. You already mentioned Aaron Gordon. Griffin had a bit of a dud against Boston, but outside of that, he has been phenomenal. Larry Nance Jr. been priced up. He's at 6,200. That's a full 1,000 jump from Saturday, which was almost $1,000 jump from Thursday. But he is at 6,200, still quite reasonable, especially with Kevin Love out going against Atlanta. All depends on how much Dwayne Dedmon is out there, but don't forget Alex Len's going to play a ton. And we know that Larry Nance excels in these up and down games, and I don't see a ton of defense being played by either of these teams. Thoughts on Larry Nance Jr.?
I'm not doing it because he does not get more minutes because of Kevin Love being out, and people think that he does. So now you have his price tag going up, and you have people playing him because they think he gets more minutes with Kevin Love out. He played 22.7 minutes last game, all at center with Tristan Thompson on the bench. He doesn't play power forward. And so you're still not going to get, like 28 minutes or something out of Nance unless it comes directly at Tristan Thompson's expense. So he still certainly has a ceiling because he is such a productive fantasy player on a permanent basis. And it's not very difficult to see a path to him getting, more minutes than we would project as a median. But assuming people keep going there because it's worked out so far, I just don't want to pay a rising price tag for a guy that is normally going to play around 24 minutes.
Very favorable. You get a little fishy like me, and you're going to walk right into some of those. One guy I do like, and this is because I still think we're going to get some he is a guy I think that's really going to make the transition. It's been a little rough in the early going for him, but it's Jonathan Isaac. He has a relatively secure starter's role. They have him in their long-term plans. They want him to develop. He is at 4,700. That's the appealing thing, along with the matchup against Sacramento. If he was 5,500, probably I would not be nearly as interested, but he is someone I want to keep an eye on and see where he is going to end up throughout this season. And then a couple other cheapies. We have Jeremy Grant. Now, Steven Adams was a late scratch, got hurt or aggravated something during the shoot-around warm-ups on Sunday. So Nerlens Noel came in. He turned his ankle late in the game. He had a great game. So we could be seeing Jeremy Grant and Patrick Patterson being the starting front court here for the Thunder. Either of those guys intrigue you going against the, remember, no longer having DeAndre Jordan Clippers?
Yeah, Jeremy Grant is the one that I'm most interested in because I would think that you could see him get some time at the 5 with, against Harrell. But Pat, if Noel and Adams are both out, would be kind of forced into minutes. He's normally not all that productive, though. Grant, I think, would be the guy that's, more productive on a permanent basis. I agree with you on Jonathan Isaac as well. The minutes have been there, and now he's playing a big Sacramento team that should make it easy for him to be on the floor. So I do really like Isaac at 4,700.
Yep. Last guy I have, and this is someone I know that you follow quite a bit because you like to follow Yusuf Nurkic, but Zach Collins. Zach Collins has been having a few moments. He is 4,000 even. That is a decent DK punt. Is the upside going to be there enough for us? I guess the better thought is how much do you think Nurkic is going to play against Houston and Capella?
Nurkic should be out there as long as he doesn't foul for 33, 34 minutes. So, Collins, I'll have to look. It's another one to look at from the Portland game on Monday and see if he got any time at the 4, because if he did, then potentially you could see more playing time for him. But this isn't a spot where I would expect them to really go big anyway. So, yeah, the only way you get the Collins is if you get lucky and Nurkic gets in foul trouble or something.
Okay. Just some of these I know you follow a little more closely than other people around the industry. So these are the little hidden gems that can pop up from time to time as news is coming in throughout the day and the herd kind of coalesces on whatever plays they're going to be on. Some of these ones that we talk about when we're more relaxed and we have a little bit more perspective, those ones will still hold true as everybody chases the shiny new objects. Reminder, once again, promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, and you can get a full free week of Osmo premium content. That does now include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Going to the center position here, Vucevic at 8,600, getting a little bit spendy, but he is averaging nearly a 20 and 10 on the season, which is nice to see. We have Joel Embiid, who is just absolutely phenomenal. He is going to be going on a back-to-back, but has a nice matchup going against Toronto. And then Andre Drummond gets to go against Al Horford. Now, it wasn't an awesome performance for him before, but he didn't really play a full set of minutes. He only played 29 minutes because they were down for the bulk of that game. The 2 prior to that, he played 37 and 36, and those were games where Cleveland won. One of those, I believe, was overtime, but they were much more competitive, so he was out on the floor a ton. He is taking 3-pointers, and I don't know if that little experiment has been shelved, Adam, because in his first game on the season, he went 1 for 3. The next 2 games, he went 0 for 2, and the last 2 games, he has not made an attempt. Do you think this little trial is over, or is it something that will come up throughout the season for him taking him from downtown?
Yeah, I'm completely guessing, but I would assume that it's something that we just see kind of come and go throughout the season. I don't think anyone really expect him to ever be like a consistent 3-point shooter, but I think that it's something that we'll see, come and go. I do think it's a decent spot against Boston. I do like that his price tag has dropped a little bit. He, I believe, dealt with foul trouble in that previous game against Boston as well, which cut into his minutes. But he should be able to, play 34 to 36 minutes, assuming that he is able to stay out of foul trouble and that the game stays competitive. It's a spot where I think he should be able to get plenty of rebounds and do, pretty well. The biggest downside is that Nikola Vucevic is only $100 more expensive in a really nice spot against Sacramento. It's a big Sacramento team. It's a team that, again, plays a lot faster than Orlando does. We're not worried about Willie Cauley-Stein, defending Vucevic away from the basket where he lives. So I think that it's a great spot for Vucevic. Absolutely love him. I like him more than Capella, who takes a fantasy production hit playing alongside Paul instead of Harden. He got a price increase. I like Vucevic a little bit more than Drummond. I like Vucevic a lot. And then Hassan Whiteside on the second half of a back-to-back. He's not going to go overlooked like he did last night because he currently has, I think, 48 points in 3 quarters. But he's also got a price decrease going from $7,700 on Monday night to $7,400 on Tuesday night, taking on Cody Zeller and the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, almost called them the Bobcats. Charlotte Hornets in Charlotte. So I think those two guys are probably where I'll mostly build around for center.
All right, and this just in, Sacramento actually winning that game at the moment by 13. What has gotten into Sacramento? What has gotten into Denver? And can they send a little bit of that the Wizards' way?
Yeah.
Goodness. Let's see. That does a pretty good job there of cleaning up the center position. Just scrolling down here. If you were going to be choosing based on their playing styles, would it be Dwayne Dedmon or would it be Alex Len getting a little more run going against Cleveland?
I think Dedmon probably is the one that comes out ahead there. He just does more to space the floor for Atlanta. I expect that he'll kind of pull away from Len. It is worth noting, and it's something I'll have to go back and look at once that game ends, but for at least some period of time, Dedmon was playing the 4 on Monday night against a big lineup for Philadelphia. Not expecting Cleveland to run big lineups since, we already talked about Larry Nance hasn't been playing the 4, but it's worth keeping in mind that the potential is there for them to play Dedmon at the 4. He can stretch the floor a bit. So I like Dedmon at 4,800.
All right. This will finish it up for the analysis. Can I bring up a guy who in 12 minutes in his last game had 31 DraftKings points? That would be Boban.
No.
Boban. Goodness. Now we have Mr. Montrezl Harrell and Boban, and they have entirely different styles of play, and they will be going, if Steven Adams plays, which guy do you like better, Boban or Harrell?
Harrell, because he'll step on the floor. Boban played 12 minutes up by 30 points in the fourth quarter. He's not in the rotation. Except for against teams that have 2 traditional bigs, but that's not the case here. Like, even if Adams plays, the last time the Clippers played Oklahoma City, Harrell was the first guy in, and then Boban came in later, played most of the fourth quarter in that one. But that was also against Adams. He closed the game against Adams. So I get, you have potential for him to end up doing that, but I am going to wait to actually roster Boban for a game where the backup center is actually a big and not someone that matches up better with Harrell like Noel does.
All right. Would you be interested in playing Boban against Joel Embiid?
But Embiid starts.
I know.
Boban against Miles Plumlee.
I see what you're saying. You want the gotcha. You want the.
Yeah. I want a team that has 2 traditional big centers, so that Boban just can stay on the floor and match up with the backup.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was not connecting the dots there. So if I wasn't, perhaps 1 or 2 of our listeners wasn't. So I'll take the heat. When in doubt, ask the question, ask the follow-up, get a little additional information, because that's what we need here for Daily Fantasy Sports, because there is so much good information out there. We now need great information. So that's what you get here at awesemo.com. Check us out. Promo code EARLYBIRD will get you a free week if you're not already yet behind the paywall. Projections, articles, up the wazoo, all sorts of goodness. It's a great time in the Slack chat. Love the Slack chat, because that is where you can have some fun, make fun of yourself, make fun of others. No trolls, though. No trolls allowed. You know why? We ban them. We don't feed them. They're gone. So it is kind of nice not to have to worry about that. Adam, final thoughts as we get on out of here and let these people go. They're not expecting an 8-game slate for sure on Tuesday. That I know.
No, I mean, it looks like a pretty fun one. Just keep in mind, if stuff happens during the day and you see ownership start to concentrate around a certain group of guys. I think you mentioned it earlier, Mac. The plays that were really good, early in the day, they don't get worse. It's for tournaments, like you can still play those guys. You just get them at lower ownership.
Exactly. See, look, this is my 30th or 31st year of fantasy basketball. Wow. Been a long time. I may have a few tricks up my sleeve here and there. In any event, you'll get Adam and I again on Thursday and then again on Saturday. Thursday, we've got a nice 6-game slate. So we're back to a little bit of a balanced schedule. I'm sure as we get into the holiday season, that will start to maneuver around a little bit. But Saturday, we also get, let's see, there's 8 games, but one's a 1 o'clock game. So we'll get 7 on that one. And then a relatively robust Friday slate, another 8 games. So this is a very nicely balanced week. Nothing going too crazy. Monday night we'll have the most games of anything going through the weekend. So this should be a good one. Remember, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. You can find me at EMACDFS. And, of course, you can follow the Osmo channel at Osmo_com. That is Osmo.com. Don't use the dot on Twitter. Use the underscore. With that, gamers, good luck.